We're farther than we've ever gone, and we're closer than we've ever been. Welcome to the Dom Skeen channel, your one-stop shop for the Mariners storylines on Seattle's minds. And today it's on Seattle's hearts as well. There's so many things like we could say, but I mean, we've never been this far. We've never been this close. There's so much to talk about on the baseball end, but first I want to go ahead and say, this moment, right? What a golden opportunity. If you told me at the beginning of this season that we were going to play 2 games and had to win 1 just to get into the World Series, man, I would have given you anything. I would have given you whatever you asked for. Excuse me, gosh. I have, at that stadium, I cried my eyes out. Stayed in it as long as I could, cried my eyes out, and now I'm back here, ready to give you guys the recap. There's so much to talk about. Starting out with, man, did the Mariners, I talked a lot about the fans and what this means to the city of Seattle recently, but I want to say that what this is, right, is I can't take anything away from what the men in that clubhouse put on that field. They say, on paper, right, they had us beat in this way or that way. But luckily, this game isn't played on paper. It's played on dirt and it's played on grass. And on the dirt and grass, our team did everything that I could have asked for. I wore my CS Rise shirt today because that 2021 team meant so much to me. And I know in one of my recent videos, shout out to Elephant, I saw you commented, do you mean the 2022 team? Now, the 2022 team that clinched means so much to me, but so did that 2021 team that didn't end up clinching the playoffs, but took it to the final day of the regular season. That really had no right to be there based on, how much payroll there was invested in that team. That team was just emerging. And what that team, personified chaos ball, was the 1-0 every pitch mentality that I have been really raving about on this channel. And man, the honest self-scout that was done made this an unpredictable game plan. Anything that, the Mariners fans could see or that, you can see, you can bet that the Blue Jays can see it too. And so, the Blue Jays answered back against us the last 2 days by saying, hey, if we were watching ourselves, here's how we would play us. And so we're going to be prepared for you to attack our weaknesses. The Mariners finally came back and answered back by we knew what our weaknesses were today. We took it on the chin. I did an honest self-scout, and sometimes the honest self-scout hurts, just to look at and to feel. And you feel like maybe you're getting away from your philosophy, but you're not. This is what legends are made of. This is what heroes are made of. And now, right, because we're in this situation, if we had swept this entire series, it really wouldn't have been quite as memorable as this. This scenario that we're in right now is so much greater than anything that we could have thought up. All the people that are looking down on us from above, not just the Mariners fans, but if anybody has ever loved you and loved your Mariners fandom, I know everybody who's loved me since I was a little boy, has loved the fandom that I have for the Mariners. And I don't even care, right? I'm loved. My profession is a scout. I try to look at things through the eyes of a scout. I write, I try to analyze, but if you don't realize that this game is played by humans, you're never going to succeed. And, we predicted Gino Suarez to hit a home run today for just that reason. I thought Kevin Gausman's matchup with him wasn't as good as some of these other pitchers because he has less pitches, which favored the Mariners. Although Gausman had a pretty good day himself. But man, this game is Gino Suarez personified. After sprinting over in foul ground to bobble that, that fly ball, and he caught it, that was just a little momentum boost, right? And good vibes only matters the most in times like this, when when you feel like things are starting to go the wrong direction. That's why good vibes only exists. It's not for everyone, good vibes only does not mean that nothing's going to go wrong. It means quite the opposite. It means that we are going to respond to everything that goes wrong as if it's still going right. And we're not going to get away from what we do, but we're going to do an honest self-scout, and that's going to keep our confidence high. Getting into the pitching, Kevin Gausman did have some good stuff today. He manages to go 5.2 innings, allowing just 1 earned run on 3 hits, 4 strikeouts to 3 walks. So whereas the Blue Jays, they were not having as, they weren't having success against our pitchers, even though we weren't striking guys out as much. You look at the swinging and strike data, and there's just as much swing and miss from both pitchers on both teams in this series. It's just that these hitters are controlling the zone extremely well. And the same thing happened on Bryce's end. But Gausman, like I said, 5.2 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts to 3 walks, a homer, 91 pitches with 6 hard hits. On the other hand, we got Bryce Miller, only 4 innings, but what a managerial job by Dan Wilson. And I'm not going to even go on Twitter the rest of the night because last night Dan Wilson was doing the wrong thing, and today he's the best manager in Mariners history. I'm not looking at any of that stuff. I'm just appreciate that Dan the man, is the man that is standing in that position. There's nobody better. I mean, when you're faced with some adversity, right, like what we've had the past 2 days, who better to talk to than somebody who literally was playing baseball for the future of baseball in this city? Him, Edgar, Ichiro, that's what adversity looks like. Those guys have handled real adversity. What we're dealing with right now, this is just, we're just dealing with, little speed bumps on the road to success. Anyway, getting into Bryce Miller, 4 innings pitched, which I applaud Dan for taking him out when he did and putting in Matt Brash. But 4 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts to 2 walks, just 3 hard hits on the 56 pitches he threw, no homers. Bryce Miller's quietly, he is making the case for pitcher of the postseason so far for our team. And you look at Bryce's swing and strike data, 7 swing strikes on 56 pitches. But what I really love about this start from Bryce is that he only had to use 5 of his pitches. We've seen him throw as many as 8 in the start this year, even though he hasn't even been healthy the whole year. And there's such a wide variety of outcomes when you have 5 different pitches. He goes 7 swinging strikes on 56 pitches, like I said, 85.7 mile an hour average exit velocity. So that's pretty good. But quality of contact is very, very fluky. And we're going to get into that in just a second. Anyway, 3 swinging strikes on 23 four-seam fastballs, 3 on 15 splitters. So that 4-seam splitter approach still coming in, but also didn't get any on 9 sinkers, but obviously those were used to set up some of these other pitches. 1 on 5 sweepers, none on 4 sliders. There was even a time, I forget exactly which at-bat it was, might have been Springer, but he went sweeper and then slider at the top of the zone. I believe it was Springer. And he goes sweeper and then slider at the top of the zone, daring him to hit it, and he doesn't. I think he actually ended up hitting the next pitch after that, which was his double. But I just love the setup from Bryce, having so many offerings. This is what makes Bryce Miller one of the most optimistic young pitchers in the MLB. And last year he got tons of credit. His stats were really good. This year, you can break down his stats and you can see he's actually been just as good. There's been slight, command hiccups at times. There's obviously been tons of injury bugs in there. But also just, he's a young pitcher, and there's a sophomore slump that happens in sports like football. When they start to see you, right, in any sport, they can prepare for you. Bryce Miller is doing a great job of commanding the strike zone. And he's also doing, his control has always honestly been great since he's got to the Mariners. And, the mechanics, shout out to our player development team, because they, none of this would happen without them. But not just that, Bryce Miller truly looked, his presence on the mound felt like an ace tonight. And that's one of the few things that I've, said that he could really improve on this year, is that, I remember game 3 of the season, I believe it was a Saturday game, Bryce's first start of the year. From that point on, there was several starts where I noticed, like, he just doesn't have that same kind of aura around him that a lot of these starting pitchers, like a Jacob deGrom, does when they take the mound. Tarek Skubal, right? He just seems still like a little bit more of a young guy. But tonight, man, it almost appeared as though he wanted to stay in the game when, they came out and pulled him. And he had his stuff working. Man. But also, so Bryce Miller, hats off to you, become the pitcher of the postseason. And that mound presence, that full of confidence, from that sinker full of confidence of Vladdy up in the zone, which got the ground ball, which I've been ranting and raving about, to, every pitch that he threw tonight, which was absolutely full of confidence, 4 seamers in on the hands, stuff like that. I want to applaud Bryce Miller's, not just his control, which has really been amazing since he got into the MLB, his command, which has been excellent, especially, the past several starts since he got back from injury, but also his presence and his poise. And that's what gives me so much optimism with him going into the future. Moving over to the other side, Kevin Gausman, again, managed to keep the Mariners off balance, and he only used his 3 pitches tonight. I think he's thrown a sinker like once this year or something. One single pitch was a sinker, but he throws 91 pitches tonight, only uses 3, and this is really a really interesting game plan from Gausman. He gets 15 swing and strikes on 91 pitches, dominant, even better than Miller's swing and miss on the night. But 13 swing and strikes on 43 splitters, using the splitter as the primary in this one, with the fastball only thrown 34 times and 0 swing and misses. Then the slider thrown 14 times with just 2. Obviously, that splitter's a really hard pitch to hit. We had trouble with it even today. Cal managed to boost that thing into this center field in Rogers Center, where, he obviously just has these legendary performances. And he also saw 4 or 5 straight splitters in his second at-bat against Gausman last game. But in this one, Cal didn't have to really do anything crazy off of Gausman. And really none of our guys did. Gino ends up hitting a homer off of him, but anyway, so Gausman, a lot of swing and miss stuff on the night, and then average exit velocity 89.7 miles an hour, totally average. And that stuff doesn't really normalize, so we're not going to pay too much attention to it. Louis Varland, he came in and he threw, he's so built on that 89 mile an hour knuckle curve, 88, 89, which is an absolutely devastating pitch. He got 4 swing and miss on 6 of those. Just nasty stuff. But 0 on 10 fastballs, 0 on 6 changeups, 4 sliders and a sinker, none on any of that. So as long as you can sit back on that knuckle curve from Louis Varland, eventually you'll get him out of the game. And then Brendan Little comes in, and Brendan Little gives up that homer to Cal Raleigh, only throws 15 pitches. His mound presence, it might have been the Braden Fisher or something. I'm getting mixed up with these reliever names, to be honest. But there's the Braden dude, looks a little younger than Brendan Little, I think it was. He was the one that came in last game right after Gausman, before Varland, right? It might have been this one or it might have been Fisher. But he looked like he had no mound presence. He was just constantly staring at the bases, distracted, looked like he was looking at people in the crowd because of how much he was looking around. But, Brendan Little comes into this game and 1 swing and strike on 15 pitches, just on on 8 sinkers, none on 5 knuckle curves, 2 cutters. And he gives up that absolute bomb to Cal Raleigh, 108.6 miles an hour. Wait, no, that's not right. The Cal Raleigh's bomb off of Brendan Little was 93.5 only off the bat. That thing just had an extremely high apex. And you could see by Cal's reaction that he got all of it. Only a homer in 14 out of 30 ballparks, 470 expected batting average, but the bat speed way up on that one, 77.4. He just swung and he connected. He got all of it. goes into Edgar's. That really lit the place up. And man, I said before that inning, right, these need to be the hardest 3 outs we've ever been as. We need to be the hardest 3 outs of all time as a team right now. And our team did. Anyway, moving on. I know that there's honestly so much that we could talk about. Not to mention, right, got to give a shout out to Dave Niehaus because, he's looking down saying, bring out the rye bread and mustard, Grandma. Because when Eugenio Suarez, after hitting the first bomb, comes up in the 8th inning with the bases loaded, after Cal Raleigh homers, Jorge Polanco walks, Josh Naylor walks, and Randy Arozarena gets beamed, just like Tommy Kahnle did in Game 5 of the ALCS in inning 15, which helped us get to this point that we are at right now. Cal Raleigh's homers, Jorge Polanco walks, right? Naylor walks. Randy gets hit by the pitch and throws the bat. He took the swaggiest, slowest saunter over to first base I've ever seen. And Randy is so full of confidence right now. I'm going to keep picking him to homer. I don't even care if he hit homers. These at-bats that Randy's putting together are great, regardless of the results. I know his batting average in the postseason isn't going to be as high right now. But if you're watching these games, you see what he's bringing. And that edge, him right there with Naylor right now, as far as the edge factor is concerned. And, when Gino comes up there, right, we got to go look at this at-bat because this is the at-bat of the biggest Grand Slam in Mariners history. The only bigger home run in Mariners history was Cal Raleigh's clincher back in 2022. It's the A's. And, I've never cried this much in a day, a week, a month. The emotions are at an all-time high right now, and I wouldn't do anything differently. But anyway, Brendan Little, right, gives up the walk to Josh Naylor after, letting Cal Raleigh homer, letting Jorge Polanco walks Naylor. And then they bring in Sir Anthony Dominguez versus Randy Arozarena. And this is a human game. I have respect for Dominguez and what he's done in the MLB as a reliever. But how dare you bring in a flamethrower to face this middle of the order? You got Randy Arozarena. It equals out to a 4-pitch walk. 4 four-seam fastballs all over the place. First one below, second one outside, third one right inside, right in the middle of the plate. And then the fourth one hits Randy, which just, you should not have done that. Then his second batter of the game, after hitting Randy Arozarena on his inaugural at-bat of the game, he goes and Gino Suarez puts together his best at-bat as a Mariner. First pitch outside, fastball, he takes the strike. Then the second pitch up in the zone, he takes a called strike on the sweeper, which is perfect because you make him throw more pitches. You don't just swing because it's in the zone. And then, he has to throw more pitches, right? And plus, Gino's just not that good at hitting the sliders and the sweepers. He tried to have a contact swing on a slider in the zone in his second at-bat of the game after homering on the first pitch of the first one. And then, it didn't work. It went straight to the center fielder, Varsho. So you might as well lay off that sweeper and just force him to throw some more pitches. First pitch outside for the fastball, ball. Second pitch, the sweeper in for a called strike. Followed up by the third pitch outside, way outside, another sweeper, and, you foul it off. You just get your swing acclimated a little bit, right? That fourth pitch, sweeper ball in the dirt. Now at this point, right, you even the count up, you get back in the count after you go 1-2 with that foul on a sweeper that you maybe, shouldn't have swung at, versus, this, then he, throws another sweeper in the dirt because he's trying to read the book on Gino and use that. But our honest self-scout said, no, we know that he's going to throw you some garbage sweepers because why wouldn't you? And that fifth pitch, four-seam fastball in the zone, you foul it off. You stay on it. You keep the at-bat alive. You make contact, protect your plate. And then that sets, it took all of that, just the way it took all of these 48 other years of Mariners baseball to set up this current one. It took those 5 pitches to set up that 6th pitch, which was a fastball middle outside, and Gino Suarez puts an amazing swing on it, pokes it the opposite way for a home run. Our comment question of the day about Gino Suarez and, what's the last time he hit an opposite field home run? First of all, shout out to my good friend Ruben Salinas for his, he said September 25th and it was the 24th, whatever. He's still getting a prize and he knows it. And I'm glad, we were talking about this because look what Gino can do when you believe in him. 103.6 miles an hour off the bat, 351 feet, 770 expected batting average. It was a homer in 20 out of 30 ballparks the opposite way. I mean, and we don't have the easiest right field to hit in. It used to be even harder, and they moved the fences in. But you look at, if anybody remembers that fan fest with Mike Morse and Kendrys Morales, and Jesus Montero, where they kept talking about moving the fences in. You see the fences getting moved in just a couple feet. Man, it's just funny to look back at stuff like that now because we have so much. They were talking about, there's so much belief being inspired here, right? We brought in some veteran hitters. You move the fences in, and now we don't have to worry about believing about the fences being moved in at all because we're hitting the ball 351 feet the opposite way for a grand salami, break out the rye bread and mustard grandma. And, if you've got a grandma in heaven, I know she was looking down over you and your love of Mariners baseball as you watch that home run, because mine definitely was. And when I saw that happen, right, I blacked out for a second, started crying. I felt that moment. I mean, and from that point on, the emotions have pretty much taken over. But also, I'm ready to go be a soldier, take the war to Toronto. That really, the biggest Grand Slam in Mariners history, one of the biggest moments, one that I'm going to tell my grandkids about, my kids, my grandkids. This is what it's all about. This is everything, every reason why I love Mariners baseball. And, if you're just joining, if you're just starting to see what Mariners baseball is about, it's always been like this. It's going to continue to be like this, and we wouldn't have it any other way. We're going to take the war to Toronto. I might try to take a day off from videos tomorrow just to rest my voice up because it's absolutely gone. But let me know what you guys want to see if I do something tomorrow. Maybe I'll go ahead and review Scout the Dodgers. Tomorrow, let me know if I get, I'll tell you what, if I get 2 comments telling me to scout the Dodgers because, 2 homers for Gino tonight, then I'll put together a video for you tomorrow, scouting the Dodgers, seeing what they do well and how we can attack them. Because although predictions are pretty much meaningless, I said something like, 7-3, we won 6-2. I said Bryce 6 Ks, he gets 4. I said Gino and Randy homer, and Gino homers twice. Those predictions are all just what we're looking at and what we're trying to look at paths to victory, right? That's why I always predict the Mariners to win, by the way. We're always scouting and looking at what we can do, not trying to predict what's going to happen, but looking at what we can do. We're not trying to feel good. We're trying to do good. And on Sunday, I'll be at this watch party. Let me know if you will be at in the comments below as well. Let's get this place rocking. Even though the boys won't be there, right? All of this belief, right? All that matters right now is if you have Mariners in your heart. If you've got Mariners in your heart right now, then I love you. And that's how I'm going to end this video. Because love, faith, and hope is going to win. The love that this city can have for each other, right? I think we're one of the easiest cities to divide in the country. But we're also, that's why it means so much more when we unite. We're going to win with love, faith, and hope. We're going to go 1-0 every pitch. We're going to remain stoic, and we're going to give all glory to God. Gino Suarez personified all of those things tonight. And we can go ahead and say anything we want to, right? But, there's absolutely so many people looking down, so many people looking on, seeing what's going on, being inspired, being made proud but I am not taking anything away from what the boys on that field did for 9 innings in the grass and the dirt. That being said, tomorrow we're going to scout the Dodgers, and Sunday and Monday, hopefully just Sunday, but Monday too if we need to, we are going to have the chance, right? Because we have now gone farther than we've ever gone, and we're closer than we've ever been. We have the chance to create the best memory that we might ever have as Mariners fans. That being said, I love you all. Go Rams.